Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. We now have imagery of interstellar object 3I Atlas as taken from Mars. It performed a close approach of the red planet on October 3rd, being just about 0.2 astronomical units away, so it's not that far. And well, there's a variety of satellites that are zooming around the planet. The different space agencies, NASA, ESA, and others have pledged that they will take observations of interstellar object 3I Atlas with. We're still completely in the dark as it relates to that high quality data. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, its high-rise camera, should give us our sharpest look yet at interstellar object 3I Atlas. We don't have that data. We don't have any data from ESA's Mars Express or from the Chinese or from the UAE. But we do have the Mars Perseverance Rover, which keeps on persevering, and it uploads photos just to a public data feed that anyone can access. And on October 3rd and October 4th, it took long exposure images of the night sky from the Martian surface, which do overlap with where 3I Atlas was expected to be. And the clever work of two smart amateur astronomers were able to stack those images together, remove the noise, and pull out 3I Atlas so we could see it. But we're still completely in the dark as it relates to this official imagery from NASA, ESA, and others. And honestly, this is kind of concerning that we're having to rely on these super low quality pictures from the Mars Perseverance Rover, because now that 3I Atlas has gone close to Mars, it's outside of our ability to view from Earth. And it's going to perform a superior conjunction on October 21st, which means that it'll be on the other side of the sun. So it's now in the glare of the sun. If you go outside and you're looking at the sun, just nearby is 3I Atlas effectively for the next 6 weeks or so. We're probably not going to be able to get any telescope observations of 3I Atlas or Hubble or anything else like that until probably the beginning of December. So at this moment in time, we really actually don't know what this thing is doing. We have an idea of its orbital path based off of all of our prior measurements, and it's most likely that this is just going to keep following along that because it's most likely that's an interstellar object. Maybe it's some sort of bizarre interstellar comet that has features much different than comets within our solar system. A lot of people think it's aliens. Well, that's the thing. That is a non-zero probability. That's not what I'm putting my poker chips on, but it's a non-zero probability. And just from a preparedness standpoint, if this thing is something other than just a space rock, we need to be able to track what it's doing at this critical moment in time for, you could say, the safety and security of our planet and species. Like, we are living in this age now where we need to be concerned about space and what's happening in our interstellar neighborhood. We can't be oblivious and ignorant anymore. And so we don't have any public data yet on 3I Atlas viewed from Mars other than the Perseverance Rover data, which is really not the highest quality, but it's useful to see that it is there and it was in the expected position for its orbit. That's good. But at this point now, no one on Earth can track what's happening with 3I Atlas, where it is. And we're going to be blind until all the way until December, because this equipment that we have on Mars, like the high-rise camera, it's not meant for like observations of comets deep in space. So now that's on the flyby, I don't know what we're going to have observed 3I Atlas in the future. I mean, we have ESA's JUICE, which is a satellite probe that will capture some images, they say, in early November. But for that critical time period of that superior conjunction, October 21st and 22nd, and its perihelion, its closest approach to the sun, October 29th and 30th, we're going to be flying blind. So it's really key that we get this data as soon as possible. A lot of people are very fearful as to what is happening with this. In fact, there was one image that was released by the Perseverance Rover, which a lot of people took to be 3I Atlas, and they started elaborating on its cylindrical shape and how it's an alien craft and all this stuff. That, in fact, is the moon Phobos. Mars has two moons, Phobos and Deimos. Phobos is the one that was captured there, and Phobos means fear. So it's interesting the synchronicities that are lining up around this. But that is the current status update on Interstellar Object 3I Atlas. Let's give that imagery a look and dive a little bit more into the details so we know why and how that's 3I Atlas and not some random artifact. Here we have two final composite images as observed by Mars Perseverance Rover's mass cam. There's also a nav cam, which is a much wider field of view and lower resolution. So this is the one that we want to look at if we have any hope of observing 3I Atlas in the night sky. And it points up to the night sky every single night and gets some snapshots and takes about 5 or 6 or 10 minutes total of these long exposure photos. So here we have 36 total images, 29-second exposures for October 3rd. Here we have effectively the same situation, 40 total images though, same exposure length, October 4th. And we had Simon Schmov process these images. He removed the noise and did a whole bunch of crazy stuff, which is a little difficult to explain. Stacked the images together and we see 3I Atlas right here. But specifically, see that very faint cloud right there? That is 3I Atlas. Basically, it was really difficult to observe this thing at all, but we see the normal stars there. But that very faint little cloud is what Simon was able to process on the 3rd of October. Now, if we go to the 4th of October, we had Astronomy Live go ahead and process the data, and you can find him on X at AstroFerg. Links to both of these gentlemen in the video description so you can check this out yourself. And specifically, this guy's live stream on how to process this data to get to this image is well worth watching, at least the first 20 minutes or so, because it goes over quite a bit. So he also did something very similar, took those raw images and then he reduced the noise by calibrating the frames. He set like a 5% threshold that reduced most of the noise, not all of it. And then, there's this deep sky streaking that is created. So he created a dark frame and subtracted the dark frame from all the images. And then what's left is effectively this, which you can then line up the different stars and try to reduce their exposure streaking, and boom, there is 3I Atlas. And I think this is definitely the better image of the bunch. We see its nucleus there, or at least its central point, and then you do see a very diffuse green comb around it. So it's actually pretty incredible that we got any sort of usable imagery of Interstellar Object 3I Atlas from the Mars Perseverance Rover, which is the only thing that's pumping out data to the public right now. Everything else is not publicly accessible for some reason. It's all locked up. Whether that's intentional or not, it's just following standard protocol, I don't know. We do have this government shutdown right now in the United States because of this back and forth with the two dumb political parties that we have. And so everything's locked up. That is affecting NASA as well as other organizations. And so I think that's probably going to delay when we're going to see these images of 3I Atlas from Mars. But the main thing here, other than it's good to see it, and we don't really get any update on its structure or composition or anything from this photo or from this one. But what these two images tell us is that 3I Atlas is still in the position in the sky that is expected based off of all the prior observations and its orbital data. But that now is completely up in the air because, well, we can't observe it anymore. So we hope it continues along that trajectory, but we really don't know. Let's check it out. Here we have a 3D solar system viewer as provided by the Sky Live. Link in the video description if you want to play with this yourself. And we see 3I Atlas right there. We see its trajectory. This is where it has been, and this is the expected trajectory going forward, though that is an unknown. We don't know if it's going to follow that trajectory, especially if it is of some sort of technological origin or it's an alien ship or something. It doesn't have to just follow the normal rules of gravity because it can, accelerate, decelerate, and move around just like we can in a car or a boat or whatever. Here we see where it is today, October 6th. It's close to Mars. It's getting closer to the inner solar system. If you view it from this angle here, you see Earth, the sun. You'll notice that's now pretty much behind the sun. So we can't observe it anymore from Earth. It's in the glare of the sun. And that's going to be the case all the way till about the beginning of December, if not even further along. We have the superior conjunction of it right here. This is when we are really completely blind as to what's happening with 3I Atlas. For example, on that day, if you go out and you're looking at the sun, you are looking right in the direction of this interstellar object if it is still there in that orbital position. And then if you go forward here to, let's say, the beginning of December, right about here, we see that there is still some glare from the sun, but now it should be more viewable from Earth. So we're gonna have to wait all the way till probably like mid-November, early December, maybe even like middle December to get imagery of 3i Atlas. And so we have the Hubble telescope provided us a really high quality photo of 3i Atlas back in July. We also had some from other observatories on Earth, also James Webb. And I find it kind of crazy that we don't have another powerful telescope positioned away from the planet, such that in a situation like this, where we don't know what this is, 99.999% chance that it is just an interstellar object, a big space rock hurtling through. But there is a non-zero probability that it's not that. Right? A lot of people are talking about that. The probability is very low, but it's a non-zero probability. If we were smart as a species and a society, because we are only right now on Earth, we have all our eggs in one basket, beautiful basket, but one basket, we should have another high-powered telescope or a couple of them in the inner solar system in different orbits. And I know that takes a lot of fuel to keep it in its orbit, so maybe it's not possible at this moment in time, but at least we should try. Because if we had a Hubble telescope, for example, right here, we could get some awesome imagery of interstellar object 3i Atlas and actually maybe figure out what the heck this thing is. Instead, we are totally blind for the next 2 months or so, and we're not going to get any imagery of 3i Atlas, as far as I know, after these data sets are released from those different orbiters on Mars. And right now, at this moment in time, they haven't even released that. It's been 3 days. Now, there is this government shutdown, and maybe it takes time to process the data, but these amateur astronomers working with really crappy data from the Mars Perseverance Rover were able to process that like within a day or two. So I don't know what the holdup is. The whole thing smells a little fishy to me, but you know, there's just a whole bunch of factors in flux right now. I do recognize that. But in a perfect world, we would have a variety of telescopes that could give us observations on things coming into our solar system. And it doesn't even have to be interstellar objects. It could also just be a big honking asteroid like Apophis. Like, what the heck is this thing? Oh, we need to get a lot of good measurements on this so we can precisely determine its orbit to see if it's going to hit the Earth or not. So it really seems to me that we're like children playing in a sandbox. And we don't know what the heck we're doing. We haven't figured it out yet. And maybe with time, maybe it'll happen in this 21st century when we'll start to wake up that we are more than a species just on one planet, but we are living within a larger cosmos. And we're just one small component of that. And if we want to continue on and keep evolving, progressing, we need to be prepared. I learned that very early on in the Scouts. Scouts motto, be prepared. Doesn't seem like we're prepared at all at this moment in time. But let's check out this image that was taken by the Mars Perseverance Rover that is being circulated widely right now as being 3i Atlas, so we can see whether or not that is the case and talk about some of the synchronicities that are unfolding at this moment in time. Here we have an image of something in the night sky taken by the nav cam on the Mars Perseverance Rover. And this was voted image of the week by public vote. So this is not a photo that's selected by NASA for any particular reason. It was just that a whole bunch of people voted for this and it won the public vote for this week. And so it's a featured image as a result of that. But a lot of people are running with the story that this is 3i Atlas and that this is clear proof that it has a cylindrical shape and that it's glowing and all this stuff. Well, this is an exposure photo, in fact, of Phobos, which is one of the 2 moons that is orbiting around Mars. And Phobos means fear. Phobos is the Greek god of fear. Deimos is the other one. It's like fear and dread. And they are the sons of Ares and Aphrodite. So I find it interesting that there is this big fear around 3i Atlas and that it is aliens and that, you know, the government is hiding something from us and that, you know, they call this this big meeting of all the generals in the United States for 3i Atlas, and then people are using this photo of Phobos to say it's an alien ship and that's clear proof and everything else. This is from the nav cam. It's a much wider field of view and much lower resolution than the mass cam. So we saw the quality of 3i Atlas from the mass cam. You're not going to get a good photo of 3i Atlas at all from the nav cam. You're not even going to be able to pull it out of the data. That's from my research and my digging. I am just one person, but I do have a good sense of what's right and what's wrong, I feel like. So that's why people have resonated to the channel. But this is the moon Phobos. So if you see this online, this is just one of Mars's moons, and it has this kind of elongation to it because this is an exposure, and well, the moon was moving and Mars was rotating, and so as a result you get this elongation of that, and it's a pretty featureless thing because it's a very low resolution camera. But the synchronicity of this being Phobos and people mistaking it for 3i Atlas and then using this as proof of it being an alien ship, I think is really, really interesting. Now, what did not help the situation as it relates to this image and people thinking that's 3i Atlas is that Avi Loeb went out and said, hey, we got this image of 3i Atlas. I mean, just read the title here on his Medium post, Interpretation of the Stripe in the New Image of 3i Atlas from the Mars Perseverance Rover. And so he spent this entire article talking about this thing, and you have to get all the way to the bottom that the above analysis is based on the assumption that the navcam images are of 3i Atlas. This was not specified explicitly on the NASA website. And so he basically whipped a lot of people up into a craze because, you know, he's the big guy talking about aliens, aliens, aliens. And he's saying that this is 3i Atlas, but in fact, it's not. And you have to get all the way to the bottom until the "it may be" question mark phrasing. Which should have been right there in the title. So I guess I'm only pointing this out because you should be very, very skeptical of everything that you see, and also pay a lot of attention to the phrasing, the wording. It's okay to put material out there and be like, let's say you saw this, you're like, is that 3i Atlas question mark? But to say it is definitively, and we don't know, I think is a real disservice. And to follow up on that, let's discuss this video that I created that was taken from a series of images captured by the Mars Perseverance Rover mass cam on October 2nd. And we see this object streaking across the night sky. No idea what that is. You'll notice that I wrote here, the object, maybe 3i Atlas, is flying across the screen. Well, a lot of people chimed in on this. This actually was shared quite widely, this video. It does not appear that this is 3i Atlas because it's moving across the field of view much too fast to be 3i Atlas. This is like 9 minutes of data or so, and we would expect 3i Atlas to move across this at a much slower clip. So this could be something that was much closer, perhaps like some tiny little asteroid that was much closer to Mars, that was able to move through quickly. Maybe some sort of abnormality with the image sensing. I don't know. But the key is that the object maybe 3i Atlas was observed. It was a question mark posed to the community, which then we got a lot of feedback on to determine that this in fact was not 3i Atlas. And we saw how 3i Atlas looked with those composite time-lapse photos taken from Perseverance. It wasn't streaking across the sky. It was pretty much stationary in that position because it is pretty far away. Close from some perspectives, 0.2 astronomical units, but not close enough and fast enough to be moving through the entire night sky in 9 minutes. That's the latest update on interstellar object 3i Atlas and what we can expect going forward, aka no photos effectively for anything after the transit of Mars. As far as I know, we do have JUICE in November, but we don't know when that data will be released. And well, to clarify, there is a chance that we see interstellar object 3i Atlas appear on the SOHO coronagraph view, specifically the C3 coronagraph, which is 32 solar radii across. They put an occluding disk over the sun to show the solar wind and the solar storms that are launched off from the sun. And we see the planets often appear on the coronagraph when they are performing superior conjunctions and or inferior conjunctions. So we often see Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury. The question is, will 3i Atlas be big enough and bright enough to appear visibly on the coronagraph? And if it is, then we will have observations of it in October. If it's not, then we will, yes, be totally blind. That's the bigger story here. I think that the fact that we are totally blind and going to be completely ignorant as to what is happening with this very bizarre thing is really highlighting our ineptitude. And I said that in the prior video as well, but it's still true. So thanks to Simon Schmov and also Astronomy Live for processing those Mars Perseverance Rover images. I've linked to both of those gentlemen in the video description, and I'll let you know as soon as I can when we get some of this data from these other orbiters like the HiRISE camera and Mars Express and maybe the Chinese and the UAE. Like, once that's released, I'll release a video update as soon as possible. Hopefully that gives us a lot of clarity as to what this thing is, but until then, we are totally in the dark. NASA is silent. There's a government shutdown. ESA is silent. No one's released anything. It's only because we have this Perseverance rover data feed, which is really also, you could comment on how that's kind of a sad state of affairs right now. The fact that we're, as a public, this concerns everyone on the planet. As a public, we have to rely on this Mars Perseverance rover, which is even meant to image these sort of things, to get any sort of update as to what this thing is doing is quite sad. So some of my thoughts in this video. Anyways, thank you all so much. I've been your host, Stefan Burns. Please smash that like button, help the channel grow. We just passed 500,000 subscribers. Boom shakalaka. That is incredible. Thanks to all your support, I'm able to do this day in, day out, provide you the breaking updates on what's happening with the Earth energetically. We look at earthquakes and volcanoes and solar activity, space weather, planetary resonances, and geometry. Comets flying in. We have A6 Lemon getting brighter and brighter, probably going to be a visible eye comet in November. We have R2 Swan getting closer to the planet. It's going to be the closest around October 21st. So I'll keep you up to date on all that and much more if you subscribe to the channel. Wishing each and every single one of you well. Please take care of yourselves. Have a spooky October. People here in my area are already doing Halloween parties. The veil is thin, so that is the other X factor added into all this. If you want to follow my interim updates, you can do so at Twitter X. That's at Stefan Burns Geo. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.